Welcome to another episode of the Fan Boss Frequency. My name is Chris, your host, and today we're going to do a short, and boy, I got a good one for you today. So, today's episode is titled Dinner Table and Boardrooms, Navigating the Work-Wife Dynamic. So, as most of you know, my wife and I work together. It's always fun. Some days are better than others, and some days there's a lot of friction, and other days it goes off without a hitch. Just kind of depends on how we're feeling that day. However, one of the things that we had to learn kind of early on was how to avoid the inevitable collisions that are coming down the pike. So if you work with your spouse and you say, well, we never argue, you're either lying to yourself or you're lying to each other because you're not actually working together at that point. There's no way you can work together under those circumstances and still have no friction on any type of continual basis. So when we clash, and usually it's, over something that's, arbitrarily simple in some cases, we have to remember that we're both working from a point of, we're passionate about this particular issue for whatever reason, whether it's, cost of something or billing or something like that. We have a definitive way that we both see the same issue. So it's not uncommon that we don't see eye to eye when it comes to, certain aspects of things because we have different perspectives on them. But we know that at the end of the day, our business and our marriage are mutually exclusive. We can't afford to have discourse in our marriage, and we can't afford that in the business. So we have to kind of figure out, how does this all work in between? So essentially, this is where the collection of hats comes into play. So sometimes you can run into a bit of an identity crisis because maybe I'm wearing the office boss hat, but I'm sitting at the table making a decision about something that's happening tomorrow later on in the week. And then I have, my home hat, the one where I, make decisions on things that go on around here. And let's be clear, my wife handles inside the house. I handle outside the house. If it's in the yard, if it's this, that, and the other, that's my role. If she decides I want to put gin barrels out in front of the house, we figure out how to make it work. On the flip side, she handles everything on the inside, so even better. But we have clear defined roles. So that being said, we have to transition. And one of the things that we do is we drive to work separately. She gets to work when she gets to work. I get to work when I get to work. And that's fine. But we do that to give us that separation and to go through a physical transition from, I'm putting my things in the vehicle. Now I need to transition into what's awaiting me when I get home. So that transition may be different for different people. But for me, I've gotten in the habit, I'll call my dad and, chit chat with him on the way home and kind of get my mind into family matters and things like that. So when I get home, the work stuff, it's gone. And if I have things I need to work on that night, I try to wait until later in the evening when, it's I'm around bedtime, like 8, 9 o'clock, and work on those things by myself, and it's all good. So now Hope has a similar process. She kind of hangs on to things same way I do, and she's learning now that in her role, she's understanding why I used to get driven crazy by not being able to switch my day. It's kind of like the last episode we were talking about. I'm always on the phone's got to be on. So we've had that, that conversation, where we have to say, hey, that's a problem that can wait till tomorrow. Let's give it the time that it deserves, but right now is not it. So like I said, if we're sitting at home and, something comes across or an email goes off, something like that, you have to be intentional with that time. So let's talk about the code of conduct, as it were. So rule number 1 is absolutely no shop talk at the table. This one's hard because, you have to create that sanctuary away from your profit and loss and what happened that day and that customer that had an issue that you just, wasn't really your problem, but it kind of became your problem. And what can we do next time? Well, we don't do that. We try to keep those things away from our threshold at our home. If it's work, it's work. If it's home, it's home. The other thing we do, number 2, is we fight fair. Disagreeing on a business strategy isn't a critique, really. We both have to keep the issue separate from, who we are as people and as human beings. So just because I don't like something doesn't mean I don't like you. Or, if Hope and I are having a disagreement about the way something should be run, it doesn't mean that I have an issue with her. and vice versa. So, it's an issue, not a personal matter. So that's one thing we have to keep in mind. And then, rule number 3, it kind of goes without saying, you just have to have that safe word, if you will, hey, look, we're done. Just have a way to signal, hey, that work conversations, we're done with that. And, it does happen from time to time where we do have to bring things up at home, but, you have to get to a natural stopping point and say, hey, look, I think we've gone as far as we can go tonight. Let's pick this back up tomorrow and give it the time it deserves. So one of the biggest reasons we do all of these things is, we know the friction exists because we both care. We're not just employees, we're owners of a business that's been around for a while, and our business is evolving every single day. And when we get the balance right, we become a unified front. We're an unstoppable team. A business disagreement handled well actually makes our marriage stronger because it builds a new level of communication. So it's something to kind of keep in mind when you're working with your spouse, especially. So don't let a bad day at the office, ruin a perfect good dinner. Protect your peace at home and make sure that energy that you're fighting for your business, it's fine to do that during the day. Just take it to work tomorrow, and maybe sometime cooler heads will prevail. So I want to hear from you. How do you leave stress at the door? How do you make sure that you're not bringing your business home with you, and vice versa? I bring this up first because it is the one that's the most obvious. Dragging it home. And we do it all the time. So I want to hear from you. How do you leave the stress at the door? Give us a call at 855-4 podcast. That's 855-4 podcast. And leave us your feedback on that. That's our voice line. So if you leave a message on the voice line, we may play it back on the show. You can always find me on Facebook under Chris Black. You can find us under DCCI. And if you're looking for some information on more ways you can help the show, absolutely leave a comment. Make sure you like and share it with a friend. We're always looking for ways to kind of build and grow the show. So whatever we can do to make that happen, we are all about getting that taken care of. So we just want to make sure that, like I said, we're doing what we can to kind of build the show, and we're super excited about how everything's going so far, and we appreciate your support. So make sure you tune in for the next episode, and we'll see you next time.